It's car con carne. Let's eat in the car. It's car con carne. And now here's the star of our show, James Van Alstyne.
Glad I could edit that after the fact. All right, that right there, funny. He's Chris Payne. I can't wait to catch up with him. This right here is episode 700 of Car Con Carne. I can scarcely believe it. I wrote about my feelings regarding hitting this milestone on LinkedIn. It seemed like a LinkedIn thing to do. I talked about everything I learned on LinkedIn, and you can read that by going to carconcarne.com and clicking the link. So when I hit episode 600 last April, I invited like 25 guests to join me. I called it Night of 1,000 Stars. It was fun. It was chaotic. It was kind of a train wreck. The thing is, I love doing stuff like that. So I'm taking a similar approach tonight. I don't have any behind the scenes help, which makes it challenging. But for tonight, episode 700, I've invited guests that all share a common thread. We all work together at Q101, the Chicago radio station that vanished off 101.1 FM over 10 years ago when it was sold to a fledgling and shitty radio company called Merlin.
Right.
I don't miss doing radio. I got to be honest. I don't miss doing radio, but I do miss working with the people who I worked with in radio. Radio personalities, air talent, some of the smartest, interesting, funny, quick people I've ever known. And who better to invite for a podcast episode like this? So Chris Payne is my first guest, and I've tried to stagger people. We'll see how that works. It's kind of like a Royal Rumble. So we'll start with, okay, Chris Payne and Alan Cox are going at it. And oh my God Almighty, here comes Zoltar into the conversation.
That's a name I haven't heard in a long time.
Well, you might actually intersect at some point shortly.
That would be great.
Right?
Yes, it would. That would be great.
I should mention also, there are some people who won't be appearing tonight, which may make people curious. I didn't invite people who currently work in radio who'd get in trouble for doing
Interesting.
This.
Yeah, right.
So like our mutual friend Sludge, who now goes by the surnameless Brian. I figured he'd probably get in trouble.
Who's Brian?
Right. What? Okay. That's a really weird thing with radio, right? At some point, there was a trend in radio where surnames were not used, and everyone just, hey, we're your friends. You know us by our first names. And now it's just a bunch of nondescript, faceless people. Yeah. Hey, what's up? It's Bob.
Yeah.
Here's 21 Pilots. Who the fuck is Bob? Who cares?
Yeah, I don't know. Nothing special about it now, right?
Exactly. So Brian's off the hook. Same with my spirit animal, Tim Virgin, who's currently working in the radio. Brian, the whipping boy. Who doesn't love Virgin? Brian, the whipping boy, Whip. Well, he just started a new morning show at The Mix this morning. And if I had to guess, the people who run his radio station probably don't want him talking to anyone who's media adjacent, such as myself.
Absolutely not. Yeah. That's not happening.
They've had a year.
He's not even listening. He's not even listening right now.
You're right.
He's so afraid.
He's being very, very careful about that. Exactly. Couldn't find a couple people. Robert Chase, don't know where he went. Fook wouldn't return my message. And Mancow, he's probably going to come up at some point. I figure with his gubernatorial run, I'll do something one-on-one with him down the road.
Oh yeah. Yeah. He lives like 5 minutes away from me.
That's perfect. All right. So I mentioned Chris Payne. You did the smartest thing in radio. I remember when we started working together, you were going to law school.
Right.
I thought, oh shit, he figured this out. Radio's a fun hobby, but it's not an end game. You figured that out before the rest of us.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I knew I had to do something else as soon as, actually, I thought about finding a different career when, God, what was that one company that was posting music for free online. It had like the little animal with the horns on it. I've drawn a blank. You remember, James?
Maybe I do. Maybe this guy can help.
I'm a remember.
So Chris Payne started at Q101. He worked at Rock 103.5 before that. Started at Q101 in the late 90s. And when I left Q101 in December of 2000, Chris took over my weekend show, Local 101, and wrote it to the very end. I mean, Chris, you were at Q101 for
13 years.
Yeah,
13 years.
A shockingly long time in radio. And you were the last voice heard on that radio station.
Yeah, that's true. That it was actually funny that they allowed. Welcome, Jaime. How's it going, buddy? Love you.
Yeah, what's up?
Jaime Black, who produced Local 101.
Absolutely. Jaime and I worked together like 14, 15 years. But yeah, it was an honor when they asked me to do it, to Jaime and I to do the last show on Q101. They even gave us like an extra 2 hours to finish out the night, because I guess I was I was on Q101 longer than any other radio host. And because I was hosting a Local 101 show, your original Local 101 show, that they asked us to do it. It was fantastic. It was great. It was a wonderful night. There's still videos all over YouTube about that evening with balloons and champagne. And it was insane. It was a lot of fun.
Well, one of the many reasons I love Jaime Black, why everyone loves Jaime Black, I was just talking, Chris, about how you spun radio into a successful legal career. Jaime took what he learned in radio and became a successful podcaster. I mean, really one of the first in our city. I mean, Jaime, you saw the writing on the wall. You saw where things were going, and you built yourself a little cottage podcast empire.
Well, first, I mean, hey, thank you so much for the invite, and it's awesome to be here with you and Chris. And I should say right off the bat, the only reason I was able to do podcasting is I got to work in, these incredible radio environments with Chris and with yourself and a lot of the talent you were naming, like Sludge and Tim Virgin, and I got to see so many talented people doing it. So by no means do I want to present this idea that like I just stepped into podcasting and I was like, oh, I know all of this. I really had a lot of great training from a lot of great people. I was really lucky on that.
You really learned how to monetize it though, Jaime.
Yeah, well, that was a lot of like trial and error over a very long time. So, that also did not happen overnight for sure.
One thing that is not common in radio, and I'm sure you guys will agree, is that smart people usually don't succeed in radio. In fact, radio, I would argue, can be a domain of C students. The guy who is joining us now is one of the exceptions to that rule. He is, when he was on Q101, he was an anchor of the Morning Fix, the morning show. He currently hosts the Alan Cox Show in WMMS Cleveland. He's been doing that since 2009. He's a drummer. He is a vocabulary enthusiast. He's a wonderful human being, one of the funniest guys I've ever met. Alan Cox is here.
Hey, gang, what's going on?
Cox rocks, man.
What's up, man?
Chris Payne.
Good to see you,
What's
my
up,
brother.
son?
Long time.
How are you? JVO?
I love it.
Lovely to see you, Alan. I haven't seen you since Jim Lynam's funeral.
I was thinking about that. Yeah, that was the last time that I saw you live and in person.
Which is crazy. So I hosted for a summer. I did a live theatrical show, like a live talk show on stage. Jim Lynam was my co-host. Jim Lynam, who was part of the Morning Fix with Alan, who worked on Mancow's show for years. He was the yelling guy. If you ever heard an alley spot in between like 1997 and 2012, it was Jim Lynam. But I had to write monologues for the first time in my life when I did that show, which is not something anyone would just have experience with unless you actually do it. Alan Cox was my ghostwriter for a lot of my monologue jokes.
Very funny.
That's why you
surprised.
got no laughs, JVO. That's why they were there in stunned silence.
It was great. The show itself was a failure. I think I had like an attendance of, no joke, 15 people per event, but the monologues were hilarious.
Well, I hope that it was fun to do at least. I mean, those, branching out and doing something.
Absolutely. So, Alan, as I brought you on, I mentioned that radio doesn't typically reward smart people. I consider you a smart person. We're sharing the same type of microphone tonight. We're using the Shure.
That's right.
What's your take on radio in 2022? The industry.
Oh, man. The line for people who are in radio, the line for the longest time was, if somebody told you today, should I get into radio, what would you tell them? And you were supposed to say, oh, unequivocally, yes, because it's great. These days, I think it's fully understandable if somebody was like, should I get into radio? And you'd say, no, absolutely not. Find something else to do. As for the state of radio, I don't know. I've been very, very fortunate to have avoided multiple axes. And, I've got a good gig, boy. They leave me alone. As long as I bring in ratings and make money, they leave me alone. So.
James, can I throw in a really quick story about Chris Payne about what Alan just said? So when I was 15, I was a kid in high school. I was calling Q101. I was calling Rock 103.5, trying to get an internship. I finally get in front of Chris, to be interviewed about a potential internship as a high school freshman. And I'm listening to Chris Payne's late night show on Rock 103.5 where he's playing Pantera and Slayer and Tool and interviewing Metallica. And, it, you know, to a 15-year-old kid, I was just like, this is the most badass thing I've ever heard. And so I expect that I'm going to sit down in front of this guy, meeting him for the first time, and he's going to be like, are you going to be ready to fucking rock in this industry and like go to Metallica shows and meet Tool and stuff? And I'll never forget this as a kid. The first thing he tells me is like, all right, man, listen, you don't want to work in this industry. There's no future. The benefits are shitty. The pay is terrible. Like, go learn another trade. And that was 1998. And even then, you know, and like James was saying, Chris went on to become an attorney and successful at that. But even back then, he was like, listen, kid, run. And I didn't
want competition from Jaime. That's why. Get out of here, kid. You're going to take my job.
That is a good test, though. The people that you tell to run and they don't run. Those are the people you want in the business.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Chris and I can tell you I think the best part of doing radio, and I'm sure Chris would probably agree. We both did, like I mentioned, Local 101 at Rock 103.5. Chris did the Chicago Rock Show. Independently programming. I mean, it was a music show. These were music shows that the corner office had no control over. Being able to do that and basically have management not pay attention to or give a shit about what aired on the weekend was the most gratifying, liberating, fun way to do radio.
It was amazing. It's like what radio was supposed to be. We could play whatever songs we want to. We could interview whoever we wanted to. Right. And I actually, near the end, and Jaime can confirm this too, I was kind of moving away from a lot of the music, and we were conducting a lot more interviews because the artists really had some great stuff to say and a lot of fantastic Chicago musicians, and we even diversified even further. I remember Jaime introduced me to Chance the Rapper. I apologize. And that was, and I'm like thinking, wow, this is just not even close to Local 101 or Q101. Let's do it. And so all kinds of fun stuff like that. I mean, it was fantastic. You don't see that anymore. And during that era, even radio hosts couldn't really play what they wanted to. And Jaime's talking about the Pantera and Slayer. That was 103.5, and I was on such a night slot, and we were doing really good in ratings. So I don't remember who was programming at the time, but they actually gave us the freedom to play. First, it was like, well, you can play one song that you pick every quarter hour, and then it went to 2 songs, and then 3 songs, and by the end, probably at least half of my show, we could just pick and play whatever we wanted to. I had a couple of great interns that I would send. We would get a phone call on a Friday night when people were partying, about like a 30-minute drive from our studio. I'd send our intern out there to like go over there. Security Dave was his name. Go there, go party with those guys, call in. I'm going to put you on live. And we did all of that crazy shit, and no one knew, no one cared. We got away with it. So being on Local 101, that was kind of like bringing it back to me a little bit, because we just had freedom to do whatever we wanted to. Jaime would bring any artist that he wanted to. We'd bring DJs on the show. It was a blast, right, Jaime?
I mean, yeah, it was, and everybody in this chat knows this, but like, yeah, getting to do specialty radio in this modern age of when radio is just, as James has been saying, so safe and so neutered, like that was just the coolest thing. And we could play.
I haven't even said that during this podcast yet. I've just been saying that online. I want to build up to that.
Yeah, but yeah, it was just incredible to get to play like, local music, not have anyone tell us what we should play or what we had to play, which is very rare in, very rare in radio. And like Chris is saying, we got to interview a lot of like behind the scenes industry talent, promoters, like people like that, Joe Shanahan. And of course, as James knows, we got to have a lot of entertaining interviews with Scott Lucas, who, like, again, everybody here knows is one of the most entertaining people you can interview on the radio.
I have the best story to talk about Scott Lucas, but I don't want to take up any more time. We'll circle around and I'll tell it before I leave, for sure.
Scott's one of my favorite people, one of the most talented guys in the world. I've always joked it takes about 10 interviews to get to that point of good interviews with Scott Lucas.
Yes.
He pushes back, and it takes a little while to warm up. But once you get in that groove, it's wonderful. Ellen Cox, I mentioned the brief moment you were on Q101 doing the morning fix. What went wrong with that show?
Boy, that was a show that I've always prided myself on being pragmatic to a fault with with my professional life. I believe that people in general have a finite number of good decisions in their life. And mine were all in the professional column. The personal column, not so much. But boy, that was a show that Mike Stern sold me on, and I wanted to come back home to Chicago so badly. I had been gone for 11 years. And Q101 was I started at the Loop as a Brandmeier producer and went off to do my own thing because I was like, I don't want to be somebody's professional lackey. My first time in the Q101, I'm already tangenting here, but my first time in the building was interviewing to be Mark Goodman's producer. And so
this was very early. This is probably 1993.
He was the first morning guy at Q101, right. I think, when it flipped to alt. And they were
Mark Goodman, former MTV host.
Yeah. Yep. And so I met Mary, who was still the MD, and I met, I think it was still Bill, who was the PD. Mm-hmm. And Mark Goodman, that did not end up being a fruitful interview. What went wrong with the morning fix? Where do you start? I don't know.
We should explain what it is. I mean, it's been a while, so people watching this or listening may not even know. I should have probably explained.
15 years ago, last September, we signed on. And we were in the unenviable position of, it's the old axiom, you don't want to be the guy that replaces the guy, right? We all know you want to be the guy who replaces the whatever. So in between Mancow and Sherman and Tingle was this highfalutin, high-concept show called The Morning Fix, easily a footnote in Q101 history. But again, I wanted to come back so badly, and Q101 was the only station that I had really wanted to work for. And so they said, we need somebody who has a background in stand-up, which I did before radio, and radio, because we're putting together what essentially amounts to the daily show for the radio. And so we collected this team of people, and I made some amazing friends from that show that I still talk to, and whatever. But it was my quote from Rob Feeder in your book, James, was bold but flawed, is what he called it. And I was like, wow, it's so diplomatic and optimistic at the same time. But I don't know what, there were a million different explanations. Success has 1,000 fathers, failure is an orphan, that whole thing, But I don't know. People said it was the wrong show at the wrong time for Q101. And that's probably the most succinctly we can put it. I mean, to replace Mancow, when Mike Stern first came to me, I said, well, this is a negotiating tactic to get Mancow to re-sign, right? You guys aren't going to put this together. You're just trying to back him up against the wall. And they go, no, he's gone. It's a done deal. We're going to put this show together. And Mike Stern wanted it to work. Everybody wanted it to work. But it was the wrong time at the wrong station at the wrong, Jimmy and I would sit there because he was the only one. I mean, a couple people had previous experience in radio, but Jimmy and I bonded pretty quickly. And upon meeting him, I'm like, this guy's going to fucking hate my guts, because I knew who he was and his pedigree with Mancow. And I was like, this guy's going to hate my guts. But we hit it off right away because he knew there was no bullshit with me or anything like that.
Yeah.
And so it was very apparent pretty early on, boy, this is not going to last, but let's have a good time. And when it came down to they blew everybody else out after a year. They had a huge 1 year. And do you remember this? At the Republic nightclub downtown. It was this old club that you might not have even gone, but they had.
No, I didn't, because I was about to get fired. So okay. I was that writing was on the wall, so I didn't really feel like supporting the team. Yeah,
understood. There was this old club called Republic, and it was right down the street around the corner from Joe's. It was like weed and something else. Mm-hmm. And they threw this big fucking 1 year morning fix anniversary party, and there's a red carpet and Klieg lights and all this stuff. And I'm like, Jesus, in retrospect, I go, they did that knowing they were going to blow out everybody but me and Jimmy. Uh-huh. And they still spent the money, and they still did the thing, and they walked everybody through that thing. Now, today, that would never happen. Front office would go, there's no way we're dropping money on this. This thing's going to be done in 6 months. They would have thought even further out. This thing's going to be done in 6-9 months. What went wrong with the morning fix? I have no idea. I was happy to be part of it. for however brief a period of time, I still have my Q101 business cards. I just, who knows? 2 people from that show are dead now. What does that say?
I want to bring on our next guest because it is like the Royal Rumble. Like, okay, Jaime, Chris, and Alan are going at it, but oh my God, look who's in the ring. It's Alex Quigley. But before I do that, to bring it back to Jim Lynam, the late Jim Lynam, who is a friend to all of us, who is part of the Morning Fix. In this book I wrote when Q101 went away, I interviewed a lot of people about the history of the radio station. Jim talked about what went wrong with the Morning Fix. And he said, if you're going to do a show like that, every bit, every news report, everything you do has got to be an A+ because it's 4 hours. Their idea was people only tuned into the radio in half-hour spurts, so they were never going to hear it repeat. What they found out was that traffic in Chicago is fucked. People are sitting in their cars for an hour and 45 minutes, 2 hours, 2.5 hours. Do you know what they hear? The same thing repeated. To me, that's where it broke down.
Yeah. Yeah, it was one of those things where the explanation of it was almost hypnotizing because you'd go, yes, this could work. And I was so, as much as I loved that book, reading what other people on the show had said was so disheartening to me because I was like, of course they're right. But to a person, they were like, oh, we sat down and it took us 6 months to come up with a name and it was death by committee. And it was like, everybody wanted to have their finger in it in case it was successful.
Right.
But it was that, boy, there were a lot of days at the Shamrock just getting shit-faced because we were like, man, this thing is, but it was a blast while we did it. One thing you can say, man, is that it was never tried before and it was never tried since. So it was a dubious, brief, shining moment for radio in general.
Those chicken strips are damn good at the Shamrock. I'm not gonna lie.
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
Pitchers of beer. That was the cheapest beer I've ever drank.
Joining us is a guy who kind of works both sides of the business, and he's done so successfully. Alex Quigley has programming genes. He has on-air genes. He's been the program director of WPGU in Champaign, operations manager at WGN Radio, program director at the Fox. He's been on the air. He was on the air for maybe 6 total years at Q101. He was the midday host at 87.7 The Game. He's had an exciting career. Alex Quigley now joins us. I think of Alex. I think of you as one of radio's thinkers. I think of you as someone who understands the business and kind of has it figured out.
Alex, I can't tell if you're about to cry or about to laugh.
Which is why I left.
Well, most recently, it seemed like the Fox was like what you were doing at the Fox was kind of like your little radio heaven, like lowered expectations, suburban signal, community focus. It seemed like you kind of landed in a happy place.
Oh, that ruled. First, Sherman being there in the mornings, that was a nice little inn to get there. And, you mentioned the departed Jim Lynam. His untimely death really set a few things in motion where guys like Pat Capone and then me ended up there. It was probably the most pure radio experience of my life. It's funny. It didn't even last 4 years. It felt like longer in a good way. It took a lot of beating the head against the wall for those first 6 months, pleading with my general manager just to trust me. Let's do this. Pleading with the sales staff. Come on, we can make this work. Let's talk crap about the guys downtown. They're 45 miles away. We're out here, Chicago's just so big and sprawling that there's other pretty good radio stations in like inland LA. KCAL was, a classic rock station that's kind of always gotten by not being one of the downtown LA stations. Same with the Long Island radio. There's pockets of it here or there. We had a completely hands-off owner. Like I literally never met him. I never saw him or spoke to him ever. So I saw an email from him once. So I'm pretty sure Peter Handy was a person. Although Peter Handy sounds like a fake joke name if you think about it out loud. And I enjoyed it. But, again, for so many hardworking people to really do a good job, like everyone was there at the Fox, and then for us all to get screwed again, it's just kind of like, all right, let's try something in businesses that aren't shrinking.
Right. I remember everyone in radio that I ever knew was always worried about being fired. Everyone, every single person.
Yeah, you never could get comfortable. Never, no matter who you were working for, what your situation was, you always knew that was how the story ended.
Yeah.
They would tell you to leave. It wouldn't be you saying, well, thanks, I'm going to try something else.
Except for a few select weekend part-timers at Q101 who they forgot to fire when the station went off the air.
That was us. They forgot to fire us.
And we had to like go back and, like I trained the news station people who, took over the 101 frequency after Q101, like set them up with some studio stuff. I didn't mind doing that. That was fine. I got paid. So I guess like hung around the radio station for a month. And it was kind of like being in purgatory. It was like everybody passed on. Like all my high school graduating class is off to college, and I'm in summer school. So everyone does get fired, except for the very few select of us who have to be like, hey, remember to fire me. I know we're way low on the ladder.
It's true. I pulled 3 more paychecks after everyone was fired. And when I wasn't even going to work, I'm on the phone with Jaime. Are you still getting paid? Yeah, me too. Should we tell them that we used to work here?
I didn't know that.
They completely forgot about it.
Wow. You're like Milton in Office Space.
And I literally asked someone, I won't name who, but I literally asked, I said, why am I still here? And I wasn't saying it ungratefully, but I was curious. And they literally said to me, and I'll tell you guys who it is off the air, but they literally said to me, oh, they forgot to fire you guys. Like just flat out confirmed it.
Pretty well-run company.
Yeah, very funny. That was very, very funny. God,
that speaks
I forgot
volumes. That. So since I have this interesting consortium of people here, what were some of the highlights for you? Alan's radio career is still going strong, stronger than really most anyone's. But what were some highlights along the way? Some memorable things where you think, oh man, I can't believe I got to do that.
We talking about Q, or are we talking about?
We can talk about radio in general. We all worked at Q101, but certainly your various experiences go far beyond that one radio station.
Yeah, but I feel like people want to hear about the Q stories. Like those. I got there in 2000, like December of 2000 or January of 01 maybe. And those first few months where I was just like, I was still getting starstruck. I didn't get nervous on the air, but I'd get nervous right after the show, like a little shaking, like, oh my God, I just drove up from the cornfields in Champaign and I just did a 4-hour show on the awesomest rock station in the country. So that never really went away from me. The sheer amount of callers, even like a late night show would get, there's a whole damn city that's awake. And it was interactions with callers and getting them to say dumb things on the air was really great. It's kind of like the spirit of everything that we did. Like, no, don't just request Mudvayne. Tell me about that meth you're cooking up in there, Scott.
I think it sounds kind of sad and desperate when I hear jocks, and apologies if you do this, Alan, I don't know. But when you hear jocks now say, hey, give me a call, call the request line at, 591-6666, because that no one's calling. Like that's a legacy of a bygone era. Like who picks up the phone to request Seosin on a radio station?
Was that a drink? Oh, that was a drink.
Yeah, that was a drink. That was a drink.
Well, who picks up the phone for anything? Like I don't.
Yeah. Right there, you go.
My mom, I'll answer the phone if it says "mom." Okay, like if my daughter were to call me, I'd pick up. Other than that, it's voicemail.
Right. When you get a phone call these days, it's enraging. Seriously.
It's an inconvenience now. You look and you go, and they've done that thing over the past couple of years where they try to spoof numbers that you might know. Like I still have a 312 cell number. I never change my phone number because why would you? And so I'll get spam from 847-312, and it's all bullshit, but that's what they've tried to kind of foist upon you now. I don't ever tell people to call my show. Because the way I lay my show out is, it's a talk show. So I have 4 hours of dead air to fill up every day. So the way I lay my show out is, the show's laid out. If callers call to interrupt me, maybe I'll throw them on once in a while, but it's never, ever going to be contingent on callers for content.
Yeah.
Because you're screwed, whether you're playing music. Music, obviously, it's less of a thing. But if you're doing a talk show and you're hoping people call, you're out of luck. Because there's also been a huge shift toward people just texting. So a lot of times there'll be days where I will take maybe a couple of calls in 4 hours, but I'm reading people's texts all the way through because those are more immediate. People don't have time to wait on hold anymore or the inclination. So I would never even rely on callers.
I'm going to take back the question I previously asked. What are some of your favorite radio crutches or things that make you wince? For me, I was just reminded of one. Here's some requested music from Imagine Dragons.
That's a twofer because no one would ever request that.
Right.
You know it's bullshit.
Yeah.
The one that stands out to me that I still hear on the radio like these days is like, I'll be listening to a station. Well, I'm going to throw two quick ones in here. One, I'll be listening to a station and they'll say like, hey, coming up after this, we've got the new one from The Weeknd. And I just think if I'm a huge Weeknd fan, which, who doesn't like The Weeknd? But if I'm a huge Weeknd fan and I learn there's a new song, A, I'm probably not learning that from radio. And B, I'll just go to Spotify right now and listen to it. Why am I going to sit through a 4-minute song? But the other thing that's so weird about radio right now is like, and this has been happening for a long time, but it's like every station sounds alike. And it used to be that the rock stations sounded alike and the pop stations sounded alike. But now everything is just sort of in the middle. So you'll hear the same thing on an alternative station, a pop station, a hip hop station, and like the, soccer mom station or whatever. Because all like the song, it's the exact same thing. Like an Imagine Dragons song, for example, or like that Glass Animals song that's fucking terrible. Like they'll just be on every station because it's the exact same thing on all formats now. There's not like a divide. It used to be like Lisa Loeb would be on like one station and Slipknot would be on another, and that's not the case anymore.
I just love when Jaime gets bitchy about songs and just sticks the knife into them, just like, oh, no one does it better.
Listen, you gained a listener on that Lisa Loeb Slipknot format, so shoot me an email on that one.
That was the shuffle format.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that was the shuffle era.
Oh my God.
Well, I don't know what happened.
One thing I'll say very, very quickly, what I'll say, when you were asking about high point moments, for me, it was a behind the scenes thing when I got back to Q101 and Brandmeier was down the hall. We used to have those car wash strips. I think at his request between the loop and Q101. And since I started as an intern and a producer for him, I waited about a month because I knew he wouldn't remember or didn't care to know what was going down the hall at Q101. And so I walked into his studio after I'd been on the air for about a month. And I go, John, I just wanted to say I'm a huge fan. And by that time, they had him in that tiny closet.
It was a closet.
It was probably a former prod studio or something down there.
It was.
No, it was a closet. He actually requested that himself. And I believe it was Mancow that wanted those plastic car wash straps put up because they hated each other so much.
Yeah.
But Brandmeier, I mean, he was a dick. I mean, he was rude. Wouldn't talk to anybody. He would like sneak in and out. It's like, who cares?
Yeah.
Alex, were you his boss at GN?
I mean, on paper. I mean, not really. I mean, that was a weird time. I don't know what I can say legally about that. He was a bad fit, and I can't believe that was the morning show. I can't believe that was the morning show. The morning fix. We were talking about. You said wrong station, wrong time. Maybe something. Was that what you said, Ellen?
Yeah, kind of.
But I think there are things about the fix that actually were good. And you had funny people trying hard. I love Brandmeier's crew. I think they're awesome people, all of them.
The people were great.
But he was prima donna, man, all the way, in very, very unproductive ways.
There's a group or a graduating class of on-air personalities who just have always put themselves out there as completely unmanageable. I think Johnny's one of them. I don't think you manage Steve Dahl. You don't manage Mancow. You don't manage Kevin. There's like that whole superstar radio class. They don't let themselves be managed, and certainly not at the program director, operations manager level.
No, that was kind of that sucked.
But also the era of that personality is over too, and I think a lot of those people didn't realize the ground was shifting beneath their feet. And so what happened was, I love John. I'll never say a bad word about him, just because coming from that show, in good ways and bad, taught me how to do radio. As I watched him, I spent the first few years of my own career thinking that it was lazy to tell stories about yourself. Now that's second nature to everybody who's on the radio. Is it's confessional, and but Brandmeier, you didn't know if he was married, you didn't know if he had kids, you didn't know. It was all content nonstop, and so it took a long time for me to be like, oh, you can work some anecdotal things in, and you're not being a shithead or whatever. But he was one of those guys that I think, to his detriment, never evolved his show. He was, I mean, by the time he was with you, Alex, he was still probably doing like Wacky Weenies and Let Me Call My Mom in Fond du Lac, and
Well, yeah, and the Bears still suck. The Bears still suck.
Yeah.
Of course, he's playing the Bears Still Suck song on Chicago morning radio after a horrible Bears loss. Way to connect to the audience, buddy. Yeah. It's funny because that the actual, I forgot the name of the program, the thing that has all of his drops and all of his music. It was really easy it searched really fast.
It's like a 360.
So, yeah, but it was like a DOS version of it.
Yeah.
It literally was the same computer. It got installed by our engineers there, the exact same one that was at the loop. It was so, like you said, he didn't evolve. No, he literally had the exact same equipment. It was the exact same drops. It was all the same.
Yeah.
I don't know. Can I talk about a fun one? I want to be. Let's get positive here. First of all, the last night when Chris and Jaime and we were all there partying, playing local H, that was
hands
still,
on the Bible.
I'll never forget that. That was so cool. We're screaming, "We won!" I don't know why we did that, but we were screaming,
again, being positive, spinning things in a positive direction.
I loved. I've told the story before, I think, but there was when Weezer came back with the Green Album. It kind of came back from the dead a little bit, and they played a secret show. Ended up being at a bowling alley out here by where I live now on East Dundee. I think the bowling alley is gone. We did the whole geographical clues, listen to Sludge during rush hour, and then, it's north of I-90, it's east of 31, whatever. And I got chosen to be the person who went out along with promo and had 500 of those wristbands. The wristbands, the only way you got in the show. And the only way you knew where to go was if you were listening. And somebody close to the band leaked on Weezer's website, and they had a pretty strong rabid online base back then.
They were early on that, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Carl's Corner, I think, was that something like that, the name of the website. And I remember with horror, I think it was Janine Moose. We kind of look at this screen and it's got 55 trillion. They had the address where we were supposed to go. So we had to call an audible at the last second. So we took my personal car because it didn't have markings on it. And there was a little dog park just north of Route 72, Higgins Road there. So we drove by this giant campus building, NIU or U of I, something like that. And there's already 1,000 people there. There's 1,000 people there. I'm not exaggerating.
Sure.
And they figured out, I had to do another call in with Sludge, and I made some reference. I was smoking weed at a dog park. I don't know. I had my friends bark in the background, and slowly this trickle of people started coming down this long winding dog park. But then, and this is right in the very beginning of the cell phone era, so it wasn't instant like it would be nowadays. People were just parking on Higgins Road. And that's a 55 mile an hour road. and getting out and running into the woods. And I'll never forget seeing those last few cars as, hey, all right, enjoy, see you at the show. Looking down, 10 more left, 8 more left, and just hoping that last car has the same amount of people in it as I'll have wristbands. And there were 3 in that car, and I had one final handful of 3. Here you go. And then I just followed. I ran to my car. My friends were with me, and we bolted out of there. And faces, everyone's faces, because they were lined up 100 cars deep trying to get in this little winding path. They realized, oh, we're fucked. We're too late. Oh, it was such a tangible and real connection where our stupid voices going off through the radio waves created this fun moment, and nobody got hurt as far as I know. So that's good.
Chris, I want to mention, first of all, I'm wearing a button-down shirt. I thought I would put on a hoodie, which is what I normally wear for a podcast. But I knew if you were going to be the first person on screen, I'm like, well, shit, he's an attorney. He's a partner. There's no way he's going to be dressed down. So I'm wearing a button-down, knowing full well that you would at least be wearing a button-down, if not a blazer on top.
Yeah. So I know.
You're an
this
inspiration.
is me dressing down now.
You've inspired me. But Chris, I want to ask you, because this is one of those rare moments where we get to interact on microphone. Talk to me about the thrill of finding an unknown band, an unsigned band, a local band.
Wow.
Hearing it for the first time and thinking, oh my God, like you found the diamond in the rough. Because there's no feeling like it in radio, I don't think. Yeah, and you know what, honest to God, I mean, I'm really blessed at Jaime as well. I mean, he was by my side the entire time. But we are blessed to have actually played some really spectacular, recognizable bands for the first time. Chevelle, for example. For years, every time I would interview Sam, he would always make a point to remind us and all of our listeners that the first time he ever heard a Chevelle song played on the radio was when he was in his driveway with his girlfriend, and they were making out, and suddenly he hears a Chevelle track live on the radio in the car. So that's an awesome memory. And same thing with Rise Against. I mean, Tim tells a very, very similar story that the first time he ever heard a Rise Against track was on Local 101, and we played those guys. And I mean, there's like more. There's like I can go on and on, but that just having that and knowing that you were just some little part of it. I mean, obviously the band is, they're the ones that are the talent, and that they are the ones that put all of the hard work and effort into it. But just like the opportunity to find a band like that and something that you think is really totally cool. It's kind of like, you hear a great song, and the first thing you want to do is tell your best friend, your buddy, oh my God, man, I totally heard this killer song. It's amazing. You got to check it out. It's going to be great. That's the way Jaime and I felt every single Sunday night. And we really were just playing what we thought was the coolest music at the time, and just wanted to expose it to everybody and hope that people would dig it and it would blow up. And we're really just very lucky that some of those artists actually did really blow up, not because of us, but we were just happy to play them on a commercial radio station for the first time in their career. The first time that happened to me was I was working at a radio station in Milwaukee, 93 QFM. I was hosting a late night show there. And I was driving back. It was a snowstorm, and I was listening to Loyola's radio station because they were playing some really cool, edgy stuff. We're talking about in the 98, maybe 96. No, earlier than that. And Thunder Kiss 65 by White Zombie, started blasting through my stereo. I mean, I literally slammed on the brakes. I pulled over. I called the DJ that was on Loyola, and I'm like, who is that? And so they told me who it was. I'm like, do you have an extra copy of that? I want to play that. They're like, yes. So I literally drove to the studio. They met me on the street. I grabbed the CD. I played it the next time I was on the radio. And Rob Zombie actually even remembers that to this day. So it's exhilarating to just have that opportunity to introduce, your friends, whether it's, your buddies in the room, or if it's, 250,000 people that are listening to on the radio. And we were cuming that number every quarter hour when we were on Local 101. It was just amazing. Hard to believe right now. A topic for a future episode discussion: music curation in the modern day. I think. Yeah. We could probably talk for an hour about how to find new music, what's changed, who are the new curators, and how important is something like word of mouth or hearing something on the radio. Topic for another day. All right, because this is Royal Rumble style tonight, a couple people in the waiting room. I'm going to kick all four of you out of the ring. Before I do, final thoughts, Chris Payne.
Oh, God, man, I'm just happy to be here at JVO. So great to see you and Jaime again, and Alex and Alan Cox, man, some of my best friends in radio. I was sitting here thinking as I was listening to everyone talk, and I really forgot how many great friends that we've all had in radio, and people come and go. Virgin, how many times did he come and go from Chicago? But you always just know these people and remain friends. And I'll say for the three of you guys, the four of you guys, it feels like not a moment's gone past.
For real.
Seriously.
Right.
Glad
Chris
to
Payne.
be here. Love you guys.
Thanks, Chris.
Same to you, brother.
Hey, man.
Jaime Black.
Yeah, I mean, everything Chris just said. I mean, I always felt very fortunate because radio was the industry I wanted to work in. I got to work in it for my entire 20s, and I learned an incredible amount that I was able to really bring over into a lot of other career choices. And so I always feel, to this day, I feel fortunate for all the time I had at Q101 and everybody I got to work with and learn from. And it really, like, it was the best. Let's put it this way. I dropped out of 4 colleges. This was the best education I ever could have gotten. Like, everything I learned from working in professional media with creative people. So feel very fortunate. James, thanks for the invite and congrats on 700 episodes, man.
Thank you, Jaime Black.
Awesome.
Alan Cox, one of the last radio professionals still standing on tonight's call.
Yeah. No, listen, man. Like I said, Q101 was the station that I wanted to work for when I came back. And it was, not to be maudlin, it was a big thrill to meet you because I was familiar with you. I was like, holy shit, JVO is still a Q101, blah, blah, blah. So by the time I got there, I'd been around the block a couple of times. And so I wasn't necessarily in a position where I felt like I was overwhelmed because I was like, yeah, I worked to get back home and do this or whatever. But it was so awesome to meet you at that time and to just be around the people that were at that radio station. And so, you know, like Chris and Jaime said, like, it really feels like not that much time. I have to think about how long ago that was. And it's like, it's good and bad that it doesn't seem like that long ago. So miss you guys. I'm happy to be part of this. I appreciate the invite.
Thank you, Alan. Lovely to see you. Lovely to talk to you. And let's not make it another 10 years or whatever it's been.
Yeah.
All right. See you, dude.
Later, Quigs.
Alex
Later
Quigley.
on. I guess,
The great radio thinker, Alex Quigley.
The first thing I was going to say, I wish he was still here, is how the hell is Chris Payne not aged?
Yeah, it's a little disturbing.
It's a little disturbing. Like, I'm not even like doing like some sort of cheap pop, like, oh, good looking guy. Like, no, he looks exactly the fucking same. It's been 20 years. Vampire.
This is some kind of weird Dorian Gray thing. So these days, you're not in broadcasting.
Nope.
You want to plug what you're doing, or is that not something for public?
Well, no, that's fine. I mean, I work for Shield, Illinois. I'm an assistant director of marketing. I'm really proud of the work that we do. You know, a bunch of really smart people figured out how to catch COVID-19 in tests as accurately as possible. No one else has invented a more accurate test, and also quickly as possible. You know, and it's saliva based, not up your nose with a rubber hose, so it's easier to do. And I actually really enjoy like the way that you know, doing something that's kind of important and helping people. You know, we're trying to stop spread of COVID. We're trying to minimize misery. And so being in marketing for that, a lot of that's just trying to like find new ways of telling the same story over and over again, much like you and I have found new ways to talk up the 17 seconds of It's Been a While from Stained 75,000 times in our lives. So I like that. I don't miss radio. I mean, if this was what radio was, it's just like friends talking, well, yeah, then I miss that. But, you know, I had a great time. So many friends and so many great things in my life. But, you know, I'm not an old man, but I'm not young anymore either.
And I said the same thing. I don't miss doing radio. I miss the people I worked on radio with. And
100%.
Selfishly, that's what I'm kind of, that's the itch I'm scratching tonight.
Well, good, man. I'm glad I could help you scratch.
All right. Alex Quigley, thank you. We'll talk soon.
Goodbye.
Alex Quigley right there.